Welcome back to the Mega Floating Shelf Challenge 2026. Today I'm rethinking how I've got my reversing loop set up. It's really hard to reach the back sections, it's hard to maintain them, it's hard to fix derailments. So I thought I would repurpose my helix supports and maybe use those for my reversing loops, which means tearing apart my helix, but I can always rebuild it. And I like the idea of the center of the reversing loops being hollow like this. I can access the trains a lot easier. I can maybe even put staging area in there. But then I got to thinking, after I tore the helix apart, of course, that if I don't need to stack the vertical supports, maybe I could come up with a more elegant design for these supports. So I came up with this, and it'll basically allow these trains to go around the reversing loops without being obscured by support beams. It'll also be way easier to reach trains and pull trains off of track and put trains on track if I'm not threading them through support beams. So this is roughly what I'm thinking. I can screw them into the shelf or just hot glue them. And on the backside, I can even flip them around if I want. So I'm really just trying to replace these huge planar surfaces with this more open approach for the staging in the off-scenic area. And then I had this crazy notion of painting everything white, like everything, the track, the supports, and just really lean into the idea that this is behind the curtain. And then if I want, I can design a very easily removable scenic cap on top of everything. The pink foam is not consistently 1 inch thick, so I've been designing these other supports to get even elevations. So I'm now finally starting to get an idea of how the scenic area is going to interface with this staging area. It's been kind of haunting me, but now I can sort of see in my head how this is all going to fit together. So I've also been designing and printing up a viaduct for my elevated Shinkansen line. Here I'm printing up some vertical supports. But then I started pricing the Kato double track viaduct. And it turns out it's almost as cheap as just straight sections of track. And I needed more straight track, so I figured I should just buy the Kato viaduct, see if I like it, and that'll free up all those straight sections that I can use on the freight line elsewhere. I'm also moving my track feeds off the viaduct and closer to the halfway point between the two reversing loops. But yeah, so I recovered all the straight track because I purchased that viaduct. But I may build my own viaduct for one of the other elevated sections. We'll see. So I've got the track laid for the staging area now, and I've got the track power back on. I try to run the trains every day while this layout is in development. I really don't like the idea of taking everything offline for weeks at a time. So even though I'm not done painting yet, I still wanted to run these trains on the sections that I have painted, make sure I'm not gunking everything up. And I wanted to test the reversing loop. I sort of rewired it and put it in a different spot. I need both of those loops to be in the auto reversing section. So I've relocated my insulated joiners. And then this little staging section here is actually outside of the auto reverse. I don't really plan to run trains with more than 15 cars, maybe 20 max. This is probably all the staging I need. If I had known how tedious painting all this track white was going to be, I probably wouldn't have done it. Sometimes it's better not to know that something is a bad idea and just do it anyway. I've spent hours on this little side quest, and it's requiring several coats of paint. And I almost destroyed one of my turnouts because I got paint down in the mechanism, but I took it apart, spent about an hour fixing it, and was able to save it. And I don't even know if I'm going to end up liking the end result here, but worst case scenario, I have a bunch of white track and I can build a snow scene at some later date. Sometimes it's fun just to try something totally absurd and just kind of see what happens. That's where I'm at. I'm finally starting to see a light at the end of the tunnel with this staging area, and I'm starting to do some broad strokes on how I'm going to separate the scenic layout from the staging. And I still need to add the second layer for the loop around for the bullet train. So that's what all those supports are. And I still don't know if I like it, but I'm going to live with it for a while and see. I think this end is where I'm going to start really scenicking the layout. There's something about this transition from this end of the layout into this staging loop around area that's really intriguing to me and also kind of stressful. So I figure if I can solve this part of the layout, the rest will kind of fall into place. This Kato diesel DF50 locomotive is my latest acquisition, and I'm really digging it. So here I'm just testing all of the track that I've painted. I'm making sure that there's no glitches. There actually were a couple glitches, and I just cleaned them up. But other than the one turnout switch that I've sort of damaged, everything else is working okay, considering all the paint that I've slopped on. So yeah, this freight line is going to disappear into a tunnel right there. And then the bullet train can just disappear behind some tall buildings or a tunnel. Tunnels are cool. So I want this viaduct to be a lot different than the other one. So I'm experimenting with removing some of the siding here, and it needs to just look different. Otherwise, it's too much of the same thing. This is some packaging from some headphones that I bought, and this is a skate park, if I've ever seen one. Definitely going to have a skate park. So I ended up getting some supports for this viaduct. I just wanted to see how Kato does their supports. I like them a lot better than the ones I printed, but just purchasing these has given me some ideas on how to improve my supports and make them more compatible with the viaducts. I had this epiphany. I really want like a motor freeway that kind of goes diagonally through one of the back corners. This side of the room is the section that I'm least sure about. It's narrow. It's only 11 inches deep, so it's pretty tight to fit that double main line for the bullet train, and then the freight line with some sidings. I don't plan to refactor this extension until I have the other one perfect.